Are we live? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Andrea Lopez Herrera, and I am the Community Development Assistant with the Prince George Office of Human Rights, the county's Civil and Human Rights Education and Enforcement Agency. Co-hosting with me today is Kyla Hannington, the Public Outreach and Engagement Division Manager with the Office of Human Rights. Our agency investigates complaints of civil rights discrimination. We combat human trafficking around the region. We ensure equitable access to county government resources for all people in the language of their preference, and we educate on social justice and building understanding across diverse peoples through our outreach program. Today, we are so excited to partner with the Prince George County Memorial Library System for our Empowering the Game Lacrosse Edition debut, highlighting 4 trailblazing women, Patricia Thomas, Alexis Joseph, Tari Kandemiri, and Chloë Johnson, who have used their platform as elite athletes and leaders to speak on social issues and advocate for diversity within the lacrosse world, and continue to create opportunities and inspire other women in sports. We're going to introduce each of our guests one at a time, and after we've had the chance to hear a little bit from each person, we will bring everyone on screen for a roundtable discussion. Our first guest this evening is Patricia Thomas. Patricia Thomas was appointed University of the District of Columbia Director of Athletics in December 2008. She is the university's first female athletic director and part of the 9% of athletic directors at the NCAA member institution, who are women of color. Thomas oversees all operations for the Firebirds' 10 NCAA division programs, and in 2011 guided the university into the East Coast Conference, the university's first ever NCAA conference affiliation. While at the helm of the UDC Athletics, Thomas has hired seasoned, dedicated administrative and coaching staff and has instituted key components to enhance the student-athlete experience and the Firebird brand. On-campus sports complex experiences has dramatically improved under her leadership, and while enhanced facilities remain a priority. Student-athletes' academic success is a priority. The overall GPA for athletes is a 3.0, and the graduation rate for student-athletes has increased upon Patricia's arrival. The Firebirds have won 6 East Coast Conference championships, have realized NCAA championships experience in men's and women's basketball, women's track and field, women's tennis, and men's soccer. The Firebirds continue to embrace community engagement through local outreach and national outreach in support of a Make-A-Wish and Go for the Goal, as well as hosting social justice forums. So, welcome, Patricia. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Andrea. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for being here. So, Patricia, we would love to hear more from your experience getting into college athletics, your experience being the first female athletic director at the University of the District of Columbia, as there's only 9% rate in the all of the NCAA, and how your work introducing lacrosse to the UDC athletics.
Thank you again. It's really a pleasure to be with all of you this evening and to join this fantastic panel that everyone's going to hear from through the course of the evening. I'm going to start with my lacrosse experience, which occurred at Frostburg State. In the early 70s, I played for Sharon Irwin, who was a legendary coach at the time. And interestingly, I was a basketball student athlete, went to Frostburg with the intent to play basketball, but had 2 really good friends who played men's lacrosse. They went to Forest Park High School in Baltimore. One was a long stick defenseman and the other was a midi. And they sort of convinced me to try lacrosse. And so I would play catch with them. And then Coach Irwin suggested that I try, and I did, and just absolutely fell in love with the sport throughout my time at Frostburg. And I think that was really part of the impetus of really wanting to start lacrosse at UDC. But after my graduation, I actually ended up at Georgetown University, where I spent 33 years in a variety of areas, from managing the Leisure and Recreation program at the Yates Fieldhouse. Interestingly, I ended up coaching a little gymnastics, which was strange because I obviously was not a gymnast, but had a great assistant coach and figured that out, and then fell into the administrative role. I actually thought that I was going to retire in 2008, but then had the opportunity to meet with President Alan Sessoms at UDC. And so he hired me in December of 2008. At the time, the university and the athletic department specifically was in a bit of a quandary with the NCAA Committee on Infractions. So I was literally brought in to deal with 5 years of probation and to have the opportunity to actually literally build an athletic program, which is rare. Typically, athletic directors come in and inherit what someone else has already established. And so that was just very, very, the last 15 years have been very interesting and very exciting for me. But again, that just goes back to full circle and thinking that lacrosse made a lot of sense for the institution, given where we are, given my love for lacrosse, and just really wanting to see the sport grow, particularly among women of color. Because during my time at Frostburg, I never had a teammate or an opponent who looked like me. And so I'm just really very excited to see how the sport has evolved on the women's side as well as the men's side. And so, Kyla, actually, at this point, enough about me. I just really want to share the excitement of what's happening, particularly at UDC, and just what's happening in the HBCU community in terms of lacrosse. We participated last week in the HBCU Women's Lacrosse Classic. And that's Coach Janae Ruffin, and she posted a wonderful tribute on Instagram today that just almost brought tears to my eyes. And I mean, she just really, just talked about just the beauty of having the opportunity to serve young women and to give back to the sport that she loves. And Coach Z and Keisha Gills are just doing a remarkable job of building our program. And so if you just want to continue to roll those pictures, again, I just marvel at how the program has grown, not only at UDC, but just, among all the HBCUs that have now embraced that sport. And I just certainly hope that it continues to grow. I mean, Karen Healy Silcox is absolutely doing a wonderful job. She and Alexis, and you'll hear from Alexis a little bit later, are just doing a fabulous job. Pamela Jenkins at Delaware State, obviously, and Ashley Lawrence now is starting a program at Virginia State. And so this is just really exciting and very gratifying for me now, 50 years later, just, seeing more and more women being involved in this wonderful sport on the Division I level as well as D2 and D3. And I understand that Morgan State now has a club program, which is, again, really exciting to see.
I'm just going, let me know if you want me to stop or go back to any picture.
And it's also amazing to me how the sport is growing even internationally. We have a number of young women from Jamaica in our program as well. And I really would be remiss, and I know this is very much about the empowerment of women, but I really have to give kudos to our men's program as well. We have Matt Merritt as our head coach, and we're just recently bringing on board Stevens Cadet, both of whom were members of our inaugural men's program. And I know that they're going to take our program on to the next level as well.
Do you want me to go back to the pictures or should I take them down?
I think you can take them down.
Awesome.
I mean,
those are great pictures.
Enough about me. I really just want to again, hear more from the rest of our panelists and just really talk about women's lacrosse and how it's growing in our community.
Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate everything that you've done so far, and we will bring you back just in a few minutes. Now we will welcome our second guest, Alexis Joseph. Lexi joined the Howard University women's lacrosse team as an assistant coach in 2022. She graduated from Duke University May 2022 with a BA in visual arts, on track for architecture, and was a defender on the women's lacrosse team. During her time at Duke, she earned the top 6 ACC Service Award and the Samuel Du Bois Cook Undergraduate Student Award for service and leadership. She also spearheaded a free clinic for Black and Brown girls in Durham. Lexi was the president of the UBA, United Black Athletes, her junior and senior year, where she led diversity training with administration and staff. She has coached with HHH Girls Philly, Icons Philly, Stars St. James, Mocha Lacrosse, and Ultimate Girls NC at various age groups. Welcome, Lexi.
Hi, thank you all for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. Lexi, so tell us about your experience with lacrosse at Duke University, a Division I school, how it impacted your life, and how are you using that experience now as an assistant coach at Howard University, one of the few HBCUs that has lacrosse as a Division I sport?
Well, it definitely was not easy. Athletically, it was, very challenging, which is what I wanted. That's why I committed to a top D1 school. I wanted to kind of prove that girls that look like us can be in those spaces and, compete at those high levels. I think it was something that was really important for, everyone around me, for me to do that. I think I, struggled a lot with being, after my freshman year, I was the only person of color, only Black girl on the team for the next 3 years. My freshman year, there was a senior, Michelle Staggers, who's from Virginia, so she's local, who really helped me my freshman year. And I honestly don't think I would have made it fully without her help and her family's support. So I'm saying that to say that it was truly important to have someone who looked like me on the team. And I think that experience led me to want to coach somewhere that had people that look like me. Initially, my junior year, I wanted to go into coaching for my gap years. I had done club coaching, and I thought it'd be very cool to join a coaching staff. During COVID, I had a lot of downtime, so I did research and looked up all the NCAA schools, seeing, how likely is it to have a Black girl on your team? How likely is it there to be a Black coach? And honestly, there were usually 0 to 1 Black girls on most Division I teams and no Black coaches. I think there's 6 now, across the NCAA, maybe 8. But there's not a lot. And so initially my thought process was, let me go to one of these top schools and, be a coach for that one Black girl that's there, have that connection. And then, one of my soccer friends from Duke, her dad is the head coach for soccer at Howard, and was like, well, why don't you just go to Howard and help a bunch of Black girls at one time? And I was like, that's the perfect idea. So I think that kind of led me to Howard, but I use my experience to make sure that, I know what top programs should look like. I know what they should have. I know what training they need. I don't know everything, and I'm really happy to have Karen Hilly-Silcott as the head coach who knows so much help me. But I think really, advocating for them, making sure they get what they deserve as a D1 program. And I just think it's so important to have a team that looks like this, Division I. When I first started playing, it wasn't even a thought that this was possible. Even though Howard did have a team, it was not advertised. And for me, it was looking at teams that no one looked like me on. And that was my only option at that time. So, creating a space where you can have competitive lacrosse and be comfortable and not have to choose is what we're aiming for. A lot of top girls who are Black have to choose between competing for a national championship or going to a school where people look like you and you can feel comfortable in your own culture. And we really want to create a space where girls don't have to choose anymore. You can compete at a high level for lacrosse while also being comfortable around people who look like you. So that's the goal. And I'm very, very happy to be in a space where that's an opportunity, because I really wish I could have had that.
You're muted, Andrea.
I was saying, thank you so much, Lexi. That definitely hits home. I think we had the similar experience. I went to a college where it was only one other Black girl, and then I was and we clung off to each other, and we were it definitely gets you through. So now that you're in a bigger space where you can impact a bunch of women of color, it's definitely important, and I'm glad to see you doing it. So thank you for being here. Now we will be bringing up our third guest, Chloë Johnson. Chloë is a recent graduate from The Ohio State University, originally from the DMV area. She is currently studying for the LSAT, aspiring to be a future criminal law and defense attorney. She graduated with a major in psychology and a minor in sociology, as well as legal foundations in society. Chloë is passionate about encouraging young women to be who they are and confident enough to be comfortable in their own skin in all spaces. Be a voice for young women who may feel out of place or doubting themselves. She also enjoys a good Netflix series or movie to watch, as well as traveling. So, welcome, Chloë. How are you doing?
I'm good. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me as well.
Thank you for being here. So, Chloë, we would love to hear about how you got into lacrosse, your experience at Ohio State, another top Division I school, and how being a woman of color has shaped or impacted your sports journey.
I feel like how I got into it, my dad. I started when I was 4. He went to Temple, and back in the day, Temple they were national champions. Like, he watched them play and was like, I guess he had the thought, he was like, when I have kids, like, this is the sport. Like, it's the idea of that we can sometime like take over the sport, and it can be something that we can play, and it's not a surprise. So I was 4, he put a stick in my hand, and that's been what I've been playing since then. And honestly, I would say playing at a PWI, Ohio State, it was not easy. I learned a lot. I would say the biggest thing I learned a lot about myself. And I definitely learned a lot about I grew more into myself as a young Black woman in this sport. And I feel like before college, we go home, and we go through all this stuff, and then we go home, like we have our safe spaces to like kind of like be like, I don't need to deal with it or talk about it. Like, I'm at home now with my family, with other Black people. And then when you go to college, it's like, this is now supposed to be your safe space, but you're kind of surrounded with everything different. I would say my freshman year, I had came with a girl in my class, and she was Black. And then I had a senior, she was Black as well. So there's 3 of us. And that for me was so rare. I know, like, especially in the high D1 levels, there's 1 or 2 of us max. For me to have there be 3 of us, it kind of felt like it was like a godsend. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I wanted to be so close to them. Like, it's like, these are the people that I can talk to, like, on a deeper level. And to this day, like, I would say they're nice people. They're cool girls, nice girls. I wouldn't say we're the closest, but they're so sweet, so nice. Like, we definitely helped each other get through times. And the sport itself, I really learned how to maneuver in a space where it kind of made me feel like I had to almost like simulate to fit in. Or if I didn't simulate to fit in, I isolated it was almost like you're purposely isolating yourself. And I wouldn't say it took me a little while, but I kind of myself owned the whole, I want to be myself, and I want to be that person for my younger sister plays lacrosse. Like, I want to be that for her, to be like, if she wants to take it as seriously, like going D1, and it's not like a hobby. You go D1 and it's a job, and it kind of becomes your world. It kind of becomes like who you are a little bit. And I was like, if she wants to be that, I want to be that. I want to show her, like, you can do that. And it doesn't have to be like rainbows and roses every day, but it's something worth it. And she made it worth it for me. Watching other girls, seeing more girls, and watching the HBCUs like grow in that way made me want to do it, because it's just like, that's my community. Like, we're all growing. If I continue to grow, it almost made me feel like I was helping other girls grow. And it almost was, it's nice when like you're playing well, and it's like, oh, like the team makes you, it's like when you're playing well, they promote you. And obviously this past season, when I had got hurt and I missed half the season, and I really felt that like difference, like that's a difference maker. And it made me grow more into and see more into the whole perspective of the spaces that we're in, and truly like honing in on like, okay, like I kind of see what it is, but I kind of got into educating, kind of got into having conversations. Like, we need to talk about it. It's 2023, like all these other spaces we're promoting, like we were saying, we want to grow. Now let's actually put it into practice, and like challenging even like athletic departments or challenging head coaches to broaden their minds and be like, okay, like, you're saying you want to promote diversity in this sport and recruit all these Black girls, people of color, but have no idea how to handle or talk to us or be in our space. And I feel like this is a step forward in that direction of like, okay, like understanding. And I feel like it's easy for them to be like, oh, like we're hiring these girls, they're good athletes. And I feel like what I had to promote for my coach and being here was, yes, I'm a lacrosse player, but I'm a Black woman first. That's the first thing y'all will see of me. I am a Black woman first. I'll be that lacrosse player second. And it's just acknowledging like we're all women. It's great to promote women. We're all women. It's great to promote being a woman, but there is that layer of being a Black woman is that different realm of like that's what we look for. And I remember I had to have a conversation with my coach, and she was like, "Oh my God, like all these women," and we only had one other Black woman trainer, and me and her were like, but where are all the other Black women? We had to explain to her, like, that's that difference. That's that other layer. Like, that's what we look for. That's what truly touches us in that way. And lacrosse really, I feel like, built me into a woman that is almost like fearless in a way to be who I am and be that person for younger people to be like, it's okay. It's okay to talk about this. And I feel like it made me feel stronger to have those conversations with my coaches and be able to be like educate, talk about it, challenge. So who knows when the next like Black lacrosse player they recruit, but they know someone in the past did it, that they can do it now. And then ultimately that's how the growth will happen.
Right. No, I definitely love everything you just said. I think it's definitely important for it to have those they could be uncomfortable conversations with like the coaches and staff. It's like it's important to be able to see somebody else on the field that looks like you, or somebody just to know that somebody else do it to keep you pushing forward. So I love how you mentioned that, and that was like one of your main goals on trying to get through to your coaches, to your whoever you came across. So definitely love that. Thank you, Chloe.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we will bring you back in just one moment. And now we will welcome our final speaker, Tari Kandemiri, also known as Official Lax Girl. She is a sports social media personality, writer, and reporter. Tari is an ambassador for Nike Lacrosse, hosts Sound On with Tari and Amari for ESPN, and is on the board of directors for the Tewaaraton Foundation, bringing lacrosse to unrepresented communities is to the utmost importance to Tari, and she serves as a lead clinician for the USA Lacrosse Sankoff Lacrosse Clinic Series and volunteers with multiple organizations in the lacrosse community. Tari writes and commentates for a variety of media organizations, including ESPN, Inside Lacrosse Magazine, and Athletes Unlimited, and has also created content for the Premier Lacrosse League and National Lacrosse League. She has provided commentary and coverage for World Lacrosse events, most recently the Women's and Men's World Championship, and is a pioneer in calling the sixth Olympic format of lacrosse for men and women. Outside of lacrosse, Tari works in management consulting and is the founder of her own startup, Hema Beauty, a platform that uses data science to recommend beauty and skincare products to consumers. So welcome, Tari. How are you doing? Is she over here?
Sorry, you're muted.
I work in tech, and yet I'm always on mute. This happens to me all the time. I just get excited. I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to be here. No, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm a DMV girly. My sister's on. My parents are on. So shout out to everyone that joined. And yeah, just super happy to be here.
So happy to have you, Tari. So Tari, tell us about your lacrosse experience also, and how it has impacted your life. How you use your platform to speak on the importance of diversifying the game of lacrosse and being an advocate on the issues that are in the inner lacrosse world.
Of course. Yep. So my journey starts all the way in Harare, Zimbabwe. That's where I was born. And Zimbabwe actually officially became a World Lacrosse member today. So excited for the future of my home country and, where my family still calls home. But I was born in Zimbabwe. I moved to Silver Spring when I was 7 and then ended up going to Springbrook High School in Montgomery County. and I played field hockey. I was familiar with the sport, and some of my teammates, said that they played the sport called lacrosse in the spring. I didn't know anything about it, but I just decided I loved running. I wanted to see what could happen in another sport, and showed up to practice and just never looked back. So, really lucky that I found the sport at Springbrook, got a chance to play there, played club, including for teams like Uproar Lacrosse with Coach Mark Mosier. And my experience early on was very diverse. My high school, our Black players were Hispanic and African-American. And, my club experience, my first club team was definitely not very diverse. And I think my first real exposure to, okay, there's some rarity here, and a little bit of discomfort being the only Black girl in this space, but then going Uproar and getting to be back on a diverse team. I think I feel so lucky that my experience starting lacrosse was, something that fostered that diversity and fostered my passion for the game, where I didn't have to be concerned about being the only person of color, the only Black girl on a team, because I could just focus on how much I loved the game. Now, moving on to college, I received the Posse Foundation Scholarship, and I got to go to Sewanee University of the South in Tennessee. Had a great experience there, studied computer science. I was on SGA, and I played varsity lacrosse my first 2 years there at Sewanee before I pivoted to start my own business on campus. And during my time at Sewanee, I was the only Black girl for the 2 years that I was on the team. And that was a really, really tough experience, I would say, because you're already in college coming from so many different backgrounds, right? Everyone's coming from their own backgrounds, their families, their cities, their homes, their experiences. And sometimes it felt difficult when my group of friends who were just this diverse and bubbly, wonderful crew were all off doing their own thing. And then there I am on a bus to and from Kentucky for 7 hours with, a group of people that were very, very kind and friendly, but maybe weren't the group that I had connected with the most, and weren't able to relate to some of the experiences I faced. When there was a racist incident on campus, I couldn't necessarily turn to teammates and share that and, know that they would understand exactly what it was, or be able to connect with me in that way. And, I think being the only is definitely an isolating experience and can be a tough experience. And I think that being able to find that community outside of playing on that team and making friends in other organizations was such a big help. But that's where I really realized the lack of diversity and what that meant in a context of you're working really hard, you're trying your best, you might be frustrated with the progress you're making, and you feel isolated because you don't know if other people will relate to what you're going through. And so I look back to my time on all my teams so fondly, and I think I learned so much about myself and the sport, and it really invigorated me to want to create room for more diversity. I think Chloe and Lexi both mentioned, finding teammates that look like them and being able to connect, right? That matters to us. We look for that commonality in the people around us, especially in times where things are tough, or, we're facing adversity, or even in times of success, right? We want to celebrate with our people. And so just the doors that lacrosse has opened for me, that's something that I hold so close to my heart. Getting to be signed to Nike, getting to travel all around the world with my sister, with my best friends. This summer we played in Portugal at the Lisbon Cup. That was a wonderful experience. I've gotten to go to so many beautiful places and coach and play and just share the game internationally, even with people that don't look like me. But getting to continue being part of the lacrosse community at large is really important to me. And so, and all the things that lacrosse has brought to my life, I think the biggest thing that I realized was not many people of color and players of color get to even be in the lacrosse realm to then have those doors open, right? There are people that I've connected with in the business world or in the technology world because we play lacrosse on LinkedIn all the time. I'll get a message like, hey, I work at the same company and I play lacrosse at Columbia. Or I play lacrosse at this place. And so that's a common thread that I already have a conversation started with a managing director or a senior manager or someone, that's a stakeholder in our company and in other places. And so I think it's really important to work together and to work at the grassroots level to get other players in these positions, get these doors open for them, whether that's exposure to, a really high class institution like Sewanee. I still go back to Sewanee and I speak at all these different events and I assist in computer science and I do different things there. And just even my Sewanee story, lacrosse is a big part of that. And so I think a part of it that's missed that sometimes people don't come out so forwardly and say is that sports aren't just an extracurricular. In some ways, they're a social vehicle, either for change in your own life, in your family's life, social mobility, or even just exposure to other friends, to diverse friends, to new groups of friends. So yeah, lacrosse has been a really, really great thing in my life, and excited to be part of this panel with so many amazing women to just share our experiences and just get to connect with more people.
All right. Thank you, Tari. Kyla, did you have something?
No, I was going to say thank you very much. And I feel like I'm going to start bringing everybody back up here. So
Okay.
that was fantastic. It's been wonderful to hear from all of you. Here we go. We should all be back. There we go.
All right. So now that we're here together, we can have like a roundtable discussion. So one of the issues that we've been seeing a lot in this past few years is a lot of like social justice issues, right? And so tell us, we can go in order, it doesn't really matter, but like tell us how you've used your platform as leaders and athletes to advance and speak on social justice issues that have affected our world today and so in our past. And why did you see it was important to take that stance? So
I think I can start. We're actually partnering with RISE, which is a national nonprofit that is using the athletic platform to speak about social justice and frankly, racism, and as it exists, particularly in this country. And so last year, our staff participated in some seminars with RISE folks, and we are going to engage with our student athletes as well. And we've also hosted town halls for our student athletes to begin the conversation and to continue the conversation. I have to say, I'm really amazed when I'm listening to Chloe and Lexi and Tari and even Andrea, your experiences, and hearing that your experiences were similar to mine 50 years ago. It just makes me think, wow, this conversation is so important. It's just amazing to me. We still obviously have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think from a social media perspective, so, as of now, I think I'm up to like 38,000, maybe close to 40,000 followers on social media. And for a while, I was just tweeting kind of willy-nilly, whatever came to my heart and my head, and I still do. But I realized very quickly that that platform I built, people were listening and watching. And that's something that I take a lot of pride in and also understand I have responsibility to use wisely. It's heartbreaking that there were 2 HBCUs in recent years that faced incidents of racism or racial profiling. And reading through that and seeing that and hearing from members of those teams about their experiences just like absolutely shattered me, because I couldn't, to just know that someone that looks like me, that is just there purely to play their sport, purely traveling, like just living the daily life. We can't even necessarily live our lives or play our sports without prejudice, right? And I knew that maybe they couldn't just speak out, and maybe the coaches couldn't necessarily at that time just speak out and say exactly what they were feeling or call out a certain situation. So I felt like it was my responsibility to not only share support, but raise awareness for the issues that they were facing. I think, when parents sometimes will DM me or players will DM me and say, hey, I'm the only player on my team that's Black or a player of color, or will say my child went through this incident, right? Those are things where I think sometimes people don't know how to necessarily handle it, but they want to garner support or they want to crowdsource the best ways to handle certain things. So I like to use my platform not only to champion for diversity in the game, but also help people that maybe don't necessarily have a voice right then and there, or just need to get more support for an issue that they're facing.
Yeah, I would say as a college athlete, it's especially important to use our platforms because we do have such large ones. And, as I've gone through my career, it wasn't what I wanted on the field necessarily. But I think with COVID happening and kind of shutting everything down, it gave me a chance to focus on something bigger than myself and, being the number one defender. There's bigger things in lacrosse, and it is bigger than just a sport. And I think it really gave me a chance to speak up about how I've been feeling and how I saw my other, athletes on other teams feeling that are the only ones or one of very few. And I think specifically using your platform to, I guess like you're not technically supposed to say call out, you're supposed to call in. But in my opinion, you have to call out certain things, and there's a time to be nice about it and there's a time to be demanding. And I think what I appreciate from my coaching staff and from some of my teammates was that they were very supportive of me calling out people and calling out things that need to be changed on campus and in other programs. Chloe mentioned a couple of things that I think I, really tried to do on our campus was, one, that we're more than just an athlete and our mental health matters, especially as Black women on these teams. We feel isolated. We are isolated at many times. You know, the microaggressions, the nuance of how we present ourselves are all very important and weigh heavy on us. We don't get to just focus on being good lacrosse players. We have to be diversity leaders. We have to be champions for our community. We have to be excellent. We have to be all these things. And then we have to have a smile on our face every single day. And if we don't, that's a problem. So that's something that I called out a lot. And another thing that I also called out quite often on our campus is this idea of patience. Quite often during COVID and when we came back, when I was talking with administration, they kept saying, oh, well, you know, be patient. It's happening. We have a 10-year program. We have a 10-year plan for racial inequities on campus. Be patient. And that wasn't good enough for me. And so, you know, using United Black Athletes on campus and using our social media platforms and calling out these things, you know, there are things that athletic departments can do that day to make a Black athlete's experience better. There is just simple fact. There are things that can be done. And this whole notion of a 10-year plan or be patient or it'll happen, you know, Ms. Patricia just said that she was experiencing the same thing 50 years ago. I think it's quite tired of being patient. And so I think using our platform to call out these things, and I think some people think it's okay to be patient because they don't know exactly what's happening. And it might seem like passive racism or just the way things are. But when athletes use their platform and expose these things and say, this is what happened to me, my teammate was called this, I experienced this, this is what happened. You can't really tell someone to be patient about that. That happened, and it's a real life experience. And so I think that's such a huge part that I think has like kind of shaken the internet, is that now athletes and, you know, everyone is exposing people and posting and showing, and you can't tell us to be patient anymore because we're showing you every day that we're experiencing these things and we're not crazy, even though a lot of times we feel like we're crazy and we're making things up, but we're not. It's real. And so using my platform really to point those things out. And, you know, I was kind of the person on campus that was kind of calling BS on everybody about like that, just wait, or we're trying, or we hired someone who's going to do this soon. And so I think that was a really cool and important part of the social media movement that happened during COVID, was that now we can call people out and, you know, in a productive manner, but it needed to happen. And I think everyone on this call has done that in an effective way.
Yeah, I agree with Lexi as far as like pushing on the campus. As far as for me and my experience, I would say like freshman year, it made me quiet. Coming in freshman year, it was quiet, and like only there was three of us, but it was like still kind of was like different, new environment. I would say my production on the field got me respect in a way where I started having eyes on me. And then granted, my like seasons went pretty well. And I kind of started getting attention. I started getting listened to, at least on campus. And for me, the biggest thing I could control was my home front. And that was my team. That was what was around me. Because at the end of the day, that was directly affecting me. And as far what I could do was, and educating. And when everything, I would say it really hit, at least was when COVID hit. When COVID hit and all the social injustice, especially when whatever happened with George Floyd, and it became personal, and we're starting seeing everything kind of felt performative. And that's what I tackled, at least for our program, was people performing and tackling this idea of I couldn't shake, I don't know, like I just couldn't shake it being pushed on me like, oh, we're a family, like we're all together. I couldn't buy into it completely, because when all that was happening, and I'm like, you know, my other teammate, her name was Kai, and I was like, you know, we're going through this is personal, like, and we're not being checked up on. We're expected to show up and just be how we are, and then there's no one checking up on me. For my family, like we check on each other. Like there's what I feel, they feel, what they feel, I'll feel for them. And it was different. And I started tackling this idea of what it's supposed to be like. You're recruiting a Black girl. Like, what do you think you're getting? Like they think they're getting like this, or you think you're getting like a crazy aggressive, like person who can handle everything. Like I'm Superwoman to y'all. I'm supposed to be Superwoman. And tackling that whole idea of like, where did you get that from? Because y'all don't know me to make that assumption. And it's like, you're starting to talk about me as a person when, as far as I'm concerned, we're on a player, coach, teammate plane. And what you see from on the field is what I give, because I love this sport. And maybe the reason why I'm here is different from why y'all are here. And the tackling, one of the things I had a conversation, remember, with my coach, end of the year evaluations, and things that come up, I want to talk about attitude this, attitude that, you're quiet here, quiet that. And I'd just be like, why is it that I'm told that I have an attitude just because I'm not talking? But the same other girl on the team, she's not talking either, but you guys are instantly she's just having a bad day. There's it's like the little microaggressions that I felt like were the little steps that needed to be addressed to truly help with the bigger change at the end of the day. And like attitudes, the whole, like, I'm hurt. Why do you think I'm faking it? I'm hurt. I don't feel well. I don't have to be that educator. I'm willing to help and to further the education, but to every single time something happens to be like, Chloe, like, what do we do? At the time, I'm a 2019, I'm still learning what it means to be a Black woman myself, but I'm supposed to give y'all all the answers is unfair. And it's like, either we teach or educate, or it's supposed to just continue how it is. And it's supposed to be chalked up to, well, it is what it is. Where it's like, no, we can meet each other halfway if you're willing to. And on camp, I say for my team, I became the person to look to when it came to the whole, what do I do? What do I say? How do we handle it? And it almost felt, I was willing to do it because I was like, at the end of the day, I know. And I truly felt what it meant when people on social media was like, it's draining. And I was like, is it? When I felt it, I was like, yes, this is draining. But it almost was like worth it, because I was like, I'm helping whoever is coming after me. Like, it almost made me like, I don't want anybody to go through what I'm going through right now. They will already have the tools, and that mindset's already be there when they will come, whenever that happens. And it was, what I wanted to push was the idea to understand, like, you want a group of diverse women, that now you're coming with different mindsets, different backgrounds, different ideologies, and you have to accept and roll with it and learn it yourself and sympathize with it, empathize with it. Don't like just have us and then play, do what you need to do, produce for us. But then when we're having a bad day or something, it's like a surprise, and it's like not acceptable.
You know, what's interesting for me is listening tonight, when I wanted to introduce lacrosse to UDC's community, and at the time being one of the first, and actually the only HBCU that wanted to have a women's program, I did receive some pushback from Black people that, oh, you're going to bring in this white sport to this HBCU. And so literally going back and educating some folks about Jim Brown and Tina Sloan Green, and I played the sport, come on, let's open your eyes here a little bit. And so what resonates for me is that we're all women, we're human beings first and foremost. So sometimes I don't want to hear that I'm this first Black AD or this female. My gender has nothing to do with it. The decisions that I make have nothing to do with the fact that I'm a woman or that I'm Black. I'm competent. I know what I'm doing. I've been in this business for 40 plus years. You all are competent women. You were excellent athletes. You were student athletes. You're human beings. And so, sometimes I really am troubled with having to defend my Blackness and the fact that I'm a woman, as opposed to the fact that I'm a human being.
Yeah. And sorry, I was going to say what you said is so interesting, because I think what Chloe, you were alluding to it too, is like having to kind of justify your humanity, right? Like when people see you, the first thing they're seeing is a Black woman. Oh, you play lacrosse? Oh, they play lacrosse where you're from? Oh, okay. Like, how did that happen? Like, what does that mean? Where'd you learn how to do that? Like, even in technology space, even in business spaces, right? Like I think I'm lucky enough to be in Atlanta now, where a lot of professionals are people of color and are Black, and I have people to look up to. But even in that same sense, like the stories ring true to what athletes are facing. The assumption that if you're Black and you play lacrosse, you play defense. I'm awful at defense. My ankles were broken on the first day of college, y'all. That should have been the number one sign. But anyway, it's for different day. But that's and the attitude thing, right? Like people think if your face looks like this thing, then you're being aggressive, or that you're mean, or you're this or you're that. And I think the issue is that people don't take time to understand our humanity, just who we are as people. It's the assumption that we are this gender, we are this race, we are this shade, and that's the only thing that they can count about us. And it's so disheartening that continues.
I would say one of my favorite things when I pull up a game or anything, like my favorite thing is seeing a Black attacker. That is my favorite thing in the world. My dad has my sister training to be an attacker. She's a goalie now. But like, it's my favorite thing to turn on the TV, watch a game, and I see a Black attacker. One of my close friends was an attacker. And I literally would just love, like, I just be like, Pat, I want her to score. Like, I want her to score. Like, see that we can do that. Like, when I first started lacrosse, I was an attacker at 4. It doesn't really count. But, like, everyone's an attacker at 4. But, like, I was an attacker and then changed to a whole new program. And literally, the first new coach moved me to defense. And my dad was like, why do that? Like, she's scoring, like, and then as that went, defense, and then we got old enough, we started getting middies. Then I was a 2-way middie. Then I started doing the things with the whole D middie. Then I was a D middie. It was so confusing. Got to college, was a middie for 2 years. My coach, she was like, Chloe, you are not in shape enough, but we want you on the field, go to attack. I was like, thank you. And that was that was when my dad and I were on the same page. He was like, now we're going to make our mark for everybody, like for yourself, but for everybody. Like, I'm so tired of the whole assumptions that we can't do anything but run up and down the field, clear the ball, or be the aggressive. Like, yes, like my coaches say I do the background work. I do the background work because I feel like I'd rather do it. I'm one of the people, like, I trust myself to do it, so I'll do it. Has nothing to do with the fact that I'm Black. I work hard. I feel like we all work hard, and those little moments matter, and it's just a matter of who's willing to do it. And it's just like, I just was willing to do it. And to scoring goals was never like the first thing on my mind. I want to make sure everyone else, like, we just got the job done collectively. But then as I got older, and then more, like, I want to say my first year playing attack literally was my senior year of college. And I literally was like scared because I was so worried about like showing off or being like, oh, like, I don't want to do too much. They won't pass me the ball anymore. They won't like me. Like, I don't want to be that Black girl that shows off. And then it resonated with me during all of these times where I'm like, I focus so much on these girls to make myself fit into this space that I'm not like doing myself due diligence. Like, I'm not doing me. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing ultimately to help this program and showing like I can do what they're doing. Like, why do I have to pass the ball every time?
Right.
And making my mark at Ohio State was probably like the best thing I could have done for anybody, honestly, just to be like, yeah, like, we can do that. Like, you don't even have to, I don't even need a plaque, but like, put our faces up there, like, show the diversity of it. Like, there's more to us than these easy assumptions that just come with this sport, or just to make sure that certain celebrations are saved for them. Like,
Right.
it's like, it feels like it's all translated. Like, you can't celebrate Black people, but it's like, you should. Like, we all should be celebrated, especially when it comes to being an athlete, as being an athlete should not be dictated by your color.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate all your comments. It's definitely like that stance you took. It's what makes the next change, and it's what makes, you know, the opportunity for the next person better. You know, maybe an experience that, you know, you didn't have, but a future your sister Chloe could have. So I definitely appreciate that. We're gonna go to this next question, and we're kind of short on time. So we know that, you know, lacrosse has become more diverse throughout the years, but it's still a long way to go. So let's discuss some socioeconomic barriers that we see in lacrosse when it comes to clubs, teams, travel teams, clinics that play a role on why there's a lack of diversity, why those barriers are there, and how we can overcome them, and how we can advance the game for it to be more accessible to other people.
Oh, sorry. Who's going to talk?
No, go ahead.
I would say the biggest barrier, you know, you mentioned the socioeconomic and, you know, just in general community space, working with different types of club teams. I've been able to see differences. So Icons is majority Black and brown lacrosse and field hockey club team from Philly that's actually in Philadelphia, like in North Philly, not in Westchester, PA, 50 minutes away from Philadelphia. It's actually in Philadelphia with kids who are from Philly. And there's some teams that I worked with. I actually, you know, work with MoCo Lacrosse, which is Montgomery County Lacrosse, and they go to rec centers around this area, you know, working with kids who would not have the probably experience of lacrosse. I would say one is exposure to the sport. It's just not in a lot of schools, which is what MoCo does, which is why I like it so much. It goes around to elementary schools. It goes around to rec centers for summer camp. They have to try it for an hour just to put a stick in their hand so they can see it. And, you know, that was part of what I was working on at Duke was, you know, all these great top 10 programs are in the middle of Black and brown cities, the majority of them. They're all in the middle of these cities that are heavily populated with Black and brown people who either cannot afford access to these camps or campuses. So, you know, you have this great population that keeps saying, well, I don't know where to find Black girls, or there's not a lot of them, or whatever. You got to start when they're young. And part of that is offering free clinics to these girls. And so offering a free clinic was a big, big thing for me because most families are not going to purchase a $300 cross stick, $80 goggles, a $250 sign-up fee, $2 a lacrosse ball, $500 a bucket, like $200 per cleats. It's just, no one's going to purchase that most of the time for a kid who's 7 who may or may not like the sport. That's about $1,000 just to try out something your kid may not like or may never pick up, right? And so making that an opportunity that's free for them. And let's be honest, the biggest thing I like to call out is that these universities have the materials and the resources to give these things for free. And that's something that I worked closely with, you know, my head coach at Duke was every year we threw away cleats, uniforms, we threw away sticks, we threw away unused stuff. And a lot of programs do this. And the first year I saw it, I was like, heck no, we're not doing this ever again. And I took all of it in my car and I brought it back home to Philly and gave it to everyone who wanted a stick. And so, you know, these universities talk about, oh, we don't have the time or we don't know or whatever. There's plenty of youth organizations. Use all the free resources you get that because we're endorsed by Nike and Under Armour and all these places. Give them the free sticks for practice and for clinics. And spend 3 hours out of your Sunday to give a free clinic to kids, open it to everybody. You know, we have the, you know, these D1 athletes, they have the capacity to do that. And these programs have the capacity. It's just whether there's someone there to force them to do it. Because most of the time they don't know or they're uneducated on the programs in the area or they're not comfortable going into these spaces. And so if you don't have a Black girl on the team, who's going to force them to do these things? And so I think, you know, again, calling out these programs, you do have the capacity to offer this sport for free for a lot of kids in the community. It's whether you want to, whether you've done the work to, and whether you are willing to continue to do the work and not just do a one-off clinic that never happens again. So I think to me, that's the biggest thing is, you know, calling out these universities and saying, give your free resources.
Yeah, I think Lexi is absolutely on point. I mean, there's a wonderful organization in Washington, D.C., Winners Lacrosse, and our coaches have been working with them for years. We are turfing our field finally now. It should be completed at some point this winter. And I know that our coaches are going to offer camps and clinics to youth in Washington, D.C. And we actually have a fund to support camps for underprivileged students so that they can attend these camps and clinics at no cost to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Lexi, when you mentioned Moco Lacrosse, so shout out to Jeff Wagner and that crew. I coached for Moco Lacrosse for about 6 or 7 years when I was in high school and in college at the White Oak Rec Center down the street from my home. And it was so much fun. And it's so cool to see that being fostered in my community, right? Someone who played at Brown has all these connections, providing free lacrosse instruction to players and getting to see them improve vastly over the summer and just have fun with it, you know, removing those barriers. So some of those barriers are cost of equipment, cost of clinics, transportation, right? When I played for my first club team that was practicing in Rockville, sometimes I took the bus there if, you know, practice started before my parents were done with work, or if it was during a time where I just needed to get on the bus or the train to go do a lacrosse thing. So that's something that I think isn't always considered. And then club fees, they are exuberant, right? Almost like $2,000 a summer. And I think that's probably on the lower end. And so for me, it's really, really important to use my platform to either help teams that are fundraising. So whether it be, you know, Brooklyn Lacrosse, Harlem Lacrosse, Oakland Lacrosse, right? Any team that is fundraising or wants to gain more traction for their program and showcase what they're doing in the community. Always excited to share that. So feel free to DM or email me, anyone out there. And then I'm actually starting my own lacrosse clinic. So I'm going to be doing a series of lacrosse clinics around the world with the great coaches that I've gotten to meet. I've met coaches that played at, you know, every single level there is on earth, and has so many great experiences that they can bring to the table. And we're starting in Huntsville, Alabama, with a clinic there for 30 to 40 girls, and the local community donated. I had professional lacrosse players donate that sign-up fee to cover signups for players. And you know, that was unprompted by them. And, you know, I've worked in the past to help fundraise and help raise camp funds for girls that are interested in going to a camp. But, you know, $300 to $500 is just not always going to be something that every single family can do. And that's okay. That's where, as a community, we step in, we help out where we can. We boost those signups to, you know, try to get as much traction as we can. So I think it's a consideration thing. Coach Pat and Lexi all touched on it, of like, sometimes people, you know, maybe they're not thinking that, oh, this is something I can actually do, whether it be donating equipment, donating time. Time is such a big thing, right? We may not always be in the monetary position to donate funds, but we can share our time regardless of what level of lacrosse you played, how long you've played, how many games or, you know, clinics or all those kinds of things, right? If you know how to pick up a stick, if you know how to catch and throw, you can help your local program beyond what you think. And those kids will love it. It's so fun when, you know, there's a bunch of coaches and you get to learn from all these different people. So yeah, I just think that together we can collectively come together and foster that. And if you don't know, it's okay. Reach out to someone and ask. You know, you can reach out to Lexi, to Chloe, to Coach Pat, to, you know, the PG County office, to me, and say, hey, I have this equipment. Do you know anyone that might need some? I've gotten a couple of those emails, and so I'm always happy to like connect the dots with the program and someone that wants to donate, just to make it more accessible.
I completely agree. It's really about the money. Like, the money really does cause an effect when it comes to like that choice of doing it and then investing your time. It's truly like, if you're spending the money, you're investing. And like, you really want to, if you're spending that much money, you really want to actually make sure you're good at it. You actually want to make sure you like that space. And it really is like a break if you don't know. And that, I feel like they make it expensive. It's made to be expensive, and it makes it exclusive almost, when it doesn't need to be. And I love what Lexi's doing with like with the whole taking of the gear. We would see our teammates, like, they'll be like, oh, I don't like cleats, I like turfs, throw the cleats away. I'd be like, what? Literally, I wouldn't throw away a pair of cleats until the sole fell off. I didn't care if I didn't like it or not. Like, they're on my feet. Like, I gotta play with them. Just watching how, like, the universities, they almost spoil us. They give us all this gear. And half of it, like, we're almost given the privilege to be like, I don't like that. And it's like, take it, donate it, give it to girls. Oh my gosh, how many sticks we go through every year, how many cleats, how many shorts we grow out of everything. I know at least on the smaller scale, at least back home, my dad, we would give my younger sister and I stuff, but we find in Montgomery County, there's a whole bunch of little small girls, like small organizations. We know a few people, a few Black families that be in it, and my dad and I'd be like, hey, my old stick, have my cleats. You go to the store, $300 for a stick, and you see why a lot of girls don't want to, a lot of low income families don't want to dive into that, because you look at the prices of everything, and then you look at the environment, and then you're like, do I really want to subject my child to that? You almost have to consider. But I love, y'all touched on great points. I love the whole thing with the college, and take everything, donate it, give it away. It's so beneficial, and it helps with the whole mindset of the space. Like, we donate, it's showing we want more, we want y'all to play the sport. And treating I feel like the key to it, and what I think is really important, is treating it as more than just a trend. Like, they treat it like it's a trend to have, let's have a clinic for the low income kids. Like, let's have them all, like, just show them, like, let's give them a night of fun, a day of fun, or whatever, a practice of fun, when it's like not thought deeply enough. Like, do you really know what you're doing for these kids with this clinic? It's not for you to be a trend. It's not for you to just be like, oh, like, we did it. Like, we're the organization or the college that we had a clinic, we're inclusive. And it's more than that. Like, you're touching these kids in a way, you're teaching them, and you're showing them that the space is very inviting. They are welcome, they can grow, and they will be celebrated for it. And it's something that it's something that's needs to be committed to. It's like, all right, one clinic, now have another one, then have another one. Then you're building relationships with these kids to show them that it goes beyond, you're showing them it really does go beyond color.
So I know that we're a little bit, I mean, this has been amazing. I know we're a little bit over time, but we have a couple audience questions that we're just hoping we can sneak in here. And I really appreciate you all being here. And so hope we can just try to get to some of these. These are some wonderful questions. We had one early on that was about if you enjoyed playing the game, but I'm going to roll into this question here with that, like the fun that if you had fun with this, what's your favorite part of your profession this far, the aha moment? So what is your favorite part of your profession this far, or the aha moment for you?
Sure. Mine's really quick, but I would say our first, and Karen, our head coach at Howard, kind of laughs at me for this because I'm not like an overly emotional person, but our first game to UNC. So obviously I played at UNC a lot throughout my career. They're our rivals. Yeah. But we had our, season opener versus Delaware State at UNC. And when we started the game, they did the national anthem, and they also did the Black national anthem. And I can't tell you how profound it was to be on that field after, not being, being on it for a long time, being on that field with two majority Black teams, listening to the Black national anthem in North Carolina on that field I can't even express how insane that experience was. Never in a million years would I have thought that it would even happen, let alone would I be a part of that experience. Every single time I've been on that field, I have been one of one or two or none, or just me. Even in the stands, like, it was a crazy experience. And I think that right there is what clicked for me. It was also broadcasted on ESPN. And I think that was another big moment, kind of all of it coming together. And I would say also we lost, but I have never had that much fun on the lacrosse trip in my life. Every single time I've traveled with my lacrosse team, it was, I liked my teammates. I liked my team. The fluff was there. It was, whatever. But never have I felt comfortable. Never have I been on the bus and not kind of cringed when something happened, or fearful that someone was going to say something, or you never know what's going to happen when you're traveling with the all-white team down south. And, being in North Carolina was a bit difficult, and I was always fearful of things. And so being in a space where I was never fearful, and I was on the bus rapping with my teammates and rapping with my players, and me and the head coaches were having fun talking about our experiences, and being on an all-Black team, like, that was such a profound moment, and it clicked that this is where I'm supposed to be. And that was probably the coolest experience, outside of the HBCU play day, which was another aha clicks moment. Never in a million years would I have thought that would happen, and never would I have thought that I would be, with these girls doing that. Or the Nations United, I did it with Chloë, playing with her we all played lights out, and I've never played so well in my life before playing on a team that was all Black. You know, that environment was important. So those were like probably the three biggest, like, this is why I played lacrosse. This is why I went through all those injuries and mental health stuff. This is what it's all for.
Love that. Love that. I think for me, it really clicked when I started coaching and doing clinics with USA Lacrosse and just getting to volunteer with a lot of different organizations. I think for a while, lacrosse was so serious, and then doing broadcasting and writing and creating content, like it kind of became honestly like a job, right? It was another job. People thought it was my only job. And I'm like, no, I got this. Check the LinkedIn. But I remember doing a USA Lacrosse clinic in Miami, and we had a bunch of, it was girls and boys of all ages. And we had like a little one who was just there kind of holding a stick and waddling around and watching. And it's moments like that that remind me like the joy of the game. And I think that's why it's so important to me to just bring in as many other people as I can into it, because in that moment I realized like it was bigger than me, right? Like all of the things that I'd gone through, or the things that I'd seen, or the things I'd felt, creating a better, safer, more fun, more welcoming environment for those kids that were just running up and down that field in Miami. We're doing duck, duck, goose. We're doing this. And, someone brought donuts. So like we're sneaking off and eating donuts. And it meant so much to know that there are people like me, like my colleagues for Sankofa, that were building a space that was more welcoming and something that could just be so fun. So yeah, I think having those moments where you can connect with even more people and bring the game to more hands, like that's where the light bulb clicks for me and reminds me that this is supposed to be fun.
I feel like for me, shout out, like the Nations United was by far, I think, my favorite memory of my entire life of playing lacrosse. That probably was my favorite memory, because playing with a group of predominantly Black girls, like, and we killed that tournament. I remember who did we play? We played the Northwestern and Maryland girls, and we were all like, oh, dang, like, oh my gosh. But then we won, and we were like, what? Like, it really felt like a moment where it was like almost proving a point without really trying to prove a point. Like, we really can do some damage in this game, and it shouldn't be like be feared. Like, we shouldn't be feared. We shouldn't be like surprised almost at ourselves that we're that good. But that, shout out to that. That was probably the best, like most comfortable I've ever been at a lacrosse tournament ever, just around girls, and we just sharing each other's experiences. But I'd say one of my aha moments, back to my career, because now my profession has nothing to do with lacrosse anymore, but my first one was literally going into college, and my dad really that's when he put it in my mind, was when I was picked for the Under Armour All-American game, and my dad was like, he was like, you realize you're the only Black girl, like you're helping without even realizing you're helping. And it really hit me then, where I was just like, wow, like, and it sucked. I had just came off tearing my ACL, but like I was just like, just being there and like being a part of that whole experience, and just knowing like now, like your name, like your being is a part of that, and now people are watching, and that's like, now you're making a difference. And that hit me first going into college. And then my second big aha was, I would have to say, after, I would say probably like my best season was probably like my senior year, before I took my fifth year, and I had made like first team all region. I was making all these accolades, like I'm putting my name in the book at Ohio State, and it made me, and I felt I wasn't even happy for myself. Like, I was not happy at all for myself. I was just like, I just want to be able to, like, I truly was focused on changing the culture at Ohio State, and changing the culture of whatever idea people had of any PWI D1 lacrosse school, like showing like, I can do that here. I promise you can do that here. And it's okay. And yes, it's not easy, but it's doable. And that definitely, it truly was a moment. It made me feel like I'm doing it for more than myself. Coaches want to ask you, like, why do you want to do this? Like, why do you want to win? My answer every time was like, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for other people. And that's enough for me. Like, I'm doing it for all the other girls that are watching me play. I'm doing it for all the other girls that wish they could be a part of Ohio State or Duke or Northwestern or any of these big schools. They can see a few of us doing it. They think they all can do it. And that's powerful in itself. And it was, I guess, like, you don't really, being at school, I'm away, like, I don't really see it. I'm just I'm doing me, almost how I explain it. Like, I'm just doing me. I'm doing what I know I can do. Then going home and my sister and her team, and I show up to help my sister, and her little teammates, her little white teammates are like, "Oh my gosh, like, can we take?" It's almost like you don't really know how much of an effect you're really making until, like, you're shown. And that was one of those moments for me where I was like, I really didn't know if I really was actually making a difference or showing people truly. And that was one of those moments that really showed me. It was like, okay, like, the platform, like, of being an athlete, I guess some people try to be like, people try to scale, like, oh, well, football players have this platform, basketball players have this platform, and it's like they almost degrade the rest of us because we're not like that. But that was one of those moments that, like, confirmed for me. It's like, I play lacrosse, and we have a big population, and that's enough. Like, we do make an impact, no matter how small they want to say lacrosse is.
Professionally, for me, just being able to work with an amazing staff each and every day, just hardworking, dedicated people who really care about the whole person in terms of our student athletes. And watching these folks come in as freshmen and grow and develop and then graduate is just an amazing experience and feeling for me as an AD. Lacrosse wise, clearly the aha moment for me was being the first HBCU to bring back lacrosse in 2014, having our inaugural men's and women's lacrosse programs. And now tonight is an aha moment for me. So I'm just continuing to have these amazing experiences each and every day in athletics administration.
You're muted, Andrea.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, thank you so much. I think hearing those aha moments, it's like, it's refreshing for me to, like, know the experiences you all went through. So we're really short on time now. But before we go, I would like to know, what are some words of encouragement for other girls and women of color that are working in to be the positions that you all are in or were in before?
I think what I would say is just keep pushing. You know, all the speakers touched on it today, that you don't know, someone might be looking at you for inspiration, and it might be someone who looks like you or doesn't look like you, isn't from the same place, is from the same place, but you also need to push for yourself. I think that sometimes we get stuck in this loop of wanting to do things because people expect it of us or people want it of us. Honestly, when I realized that playing lacrosse at Sewanee was just not for me, and that I really just wanted to focus on technology, my CS classes, businesses, go to the cookouts or the Qs with my friends, like, I can't be 7 hours away. My friends are having, barbecues in the quad without me. Like, that meant so much more to me. And that's where I wanted to be. And I had to tell myself that was okay, right? Like, life is short. And I knew lacrosse was always going to be part of my life. I've gotten to travel to so many beautiful places to play. I've coached in Portugal. We held a clinic with translators. Like, the sport is never going to leave you. So if you ever feel like you're in a situation or you're on a team where you're not able to be at your best, or it's taking away from you mentally, the sport will never leave you. You can always coach. You can always go play on another team. Like, I'm playing in an adult league now. I wrote my sister in. Y'all, my sister had never played in her, short, young 30 years of life. But I said, we need a player. Suit up. Here's some goggles. Bring that soccer skill with you. So, yeah, just push, but also push for yourself. Do the things that you love, and use your voice. You can build a platform for any interest that you have on social media. People ask me all the time how to get involved in media, in the work that I've done. We have our cameras, we have our phones, we have, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok. Like, if you love lacrosse, you love sports, whatever topic you love, go ahead and start making content. You never know who's going to see it. ESPN DM'd me. I didn't even have my email in my bio. They DM'd me and said, hey, we want to talk to you about, about something related to ESPN and being in a show with us. So believe in yourself too, and don't let these outside factors get you down. I know that it's very easy, especially when you feel that isolation. Find community in other places as well, whether it be other campus organizations or other friends that you can make off campus. But I believe in all of you. Khadijah, it is not too late. High school is not too late to start. Some of the best players I've met started junior, senior of high school, and they just had it in them. They worked so hard. They got their stick skills up. It's absolutely not too late. If you need a stick, if you need goggles, like at Official Lax Girl, DM me. I got you. I will mail it to you this weekend. But I believe in you. I believe in all of you. And I'm just grateful that I got to be part of this panel today.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I would say the things that I would add is that advocate for yourself in every capacity necessary. You deserve everything that your counterparts are getting, specifically your privileged white counterparts. You 100% deserve everything that they're getting. We deserve to have our mental health taken seriously. We deserve to have our injuries taken seriously. Those are all very important facets of being an athlete. And I think it's quite easy sometimes to get lost in the, strong Black woman trope. And, that was something that I got a lot from my teammates and my staff, is that like, oh, we didn't know you really were, it didn't look like you were in that much pain. Like we didn't know. And, I had to like collapse for them to be like, help her. Right. And so advocating for yourself and saying, no, I need these services. I need these things. I deserve that internship that you're offering my counterpart. I deserve these things that I work just as hard for. I deserve the playing time that my counterparts are getting. I put in that same amount of work. Just advocating for yourself in that manner. And also, not being afraid to be yourself. Chloe touched on it briefly about, assimilation and feeling you have to code switch or all these things. And, a lot of Black people who are in white spaces feel that pressure. But I think, one thing I learned very quickly in my experience is that I'm good as I am. I deserve to be who I am in every single space. And so being yourself, you don't have to change anything. You need to grow and develop and become an amazing person, but you don't have to change who you are at your core, and your core values matter. And so keeping that strong wire in these spaces to change them is super important, and, not wavering on what you believe in because people around you might not believe in it.
I think this is great advice that's been offered thus far. I just want to echo what Janae wrote earlier today. She just followed her dreams. She believed in herself and just kept working hard. And now she's living her dream. And then I always say to young people, just expect the unexpected. Keep pushing, believe in yourself, and take good care of yourself.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of great points were touched. I feel like as Lexi said, what I touch on specifically for me, what I focus on is literally the assimilation part and staying true to yourself. The main advice that I give is stay true to yourself, hone into who you are, what you want, like what you believe. And yes, grow as a person, like grow, you're always changing, like be a better person. But as far as on that field and that group, I remember I had a mentor, and her name was Kimberly Lowe, and she was a former player at Ohio State. And she told me this, and it resonated with me so much. And it did help me in that time. Like, she told me, like, it's great to be a part of a team. Like, a lot of them, they'll be like, some of them, they always come back. They're like, oh, these girls are going to be my weddings. Like, they're my friends. And sometimes it's what you want. You expect that, you hear it so much. But then it's like to sit back and be like, if that's not happening for you, it's okay. Like, these girls can be your teammates. They do not have to be your best friend. And it's like accepting that, and don't have to feel like you have to assimilate to fit into a space that's not willing to accept you. In that instance, yes, be a part of a team, be a teammate, but don't change who you are to make other people feel comfortable. If you're the person that if you're going to be that uncomfortability for people, be that, because you're being who you are, and that's truly what's going to help you and ultimately help them in the long run. And value your mental health and speak out for yourself. Make them value mental health. Like, I'm a person too. I hurt. I get sad. I get mad. I may express it differently, but however I express it I'm still human though. And that needs to be acknowledged, that needs to be valued, and that needs to be educated. And obviously, but everyone touched on great things. I'm happy to be here too. I feel like this was amazing. I wish this was when I was coming into college.
This has been absolutely wonderful. I have to say, it's always bad news when I start talking at the end of a program, because it means that we have really come to the end of how much time we have. I want to say a couple of things, first of all, to our panelists who, for your time. I'm already seeing there's been a lot happening in the chat. Tari, you've already got a DM waiting for you from somebody. So what you're doing here, the time that you spent with us, like is really having like impact right, like literally right now. So thank you so much for all of you for your words of encouragement, raising the issues, raising solutions, and letting people know that there's things that they can do and that you will help them do, which is just extraordinary. And so I really want to thank the four of you, our panelists. I also really need to thank Andrea, our host, and the person behind this event. She conceptualized it, she did all the work, and I think it's just been an extraordinary event for Prince George's County and the region. So thank you very much to Andrea. I also want to thank Prince George's County Memorial Library System, our friends who are sharing their platforms with us. They're wonderful event partners. And we at the Office of Human Rights are able to do what we do really through the support and partnership with the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. And of course, to everybody watching at home, or if you watch on demand later, we thank you for joining us. You've heard people, talk about reaching out to them. You've also heard people say reach out to our office, which is true. So I'm going to take a moment and give you our email address. If you've been listening right now and you're like, hey, I really do want to reach out to Coach Pat or Lexi or Chloe or Tari, I don't know how to do it, you can reach out to us. So get ready, get a pen. ohrstaff@co.pg.md.us. And I apologize for how long that email address is. But if you send something to us, we'll make sure that we forward it on. So I'm not going to keep anyone's time too much longer, but I will just say again to our panelists, it's just really been extraordinary. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been great. Thank you, everyone. I wish you all well. Continued success.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.